This is Professor Jeff Wilkerson at Luther College, bringing you once again what to look for in the night sky. Now we're talking about July 19th, 2021. We're going to turn our attention this week to the summer triangle stars. I didn't go back and look, but I got to believe that when we started this series last August, we're getting close to having done this a year now, we would have spent at least one, maybe 2 weeks talking about the summer triangle stars. And we'll spend a few weeks talking about things related to the summer triangle again, this time through. Summer triangle is just now getting to be really well placed to observe. It's going to get better as we work our way here through August and into September. It's going to be really well placed for observing. Right now is a good time to refamiliarize yourself with this region of the sky, to look and find these stars and make sure you can see them. They're sort of the three brightest stars that are high in the summer sky. And if you have the hazy days in summer, a lot of the other stars get washed out a little bit and hard to see, and these three stars kind of pop out. And so you can find them relatively easily, I think. Right now, what makes this a reasonably good time to start starting to practice to find these stars? A couple of things. One is for this week, July 19th through the 25th or so, you'll find that Vega, we connect the line that connects south to north and passes directly overhead is called the meridian line. And the point that's directly overhead is called the zenith. And so we look straight up and we see the zenith. We see the line that goes through the zenith that goes due north to due south. That's the meridian line. So we talk about objects like these stars crossing the meridian. And so that means they're on that north-south. They're as high in the sky as they're going to get when they cross the meridian. They're on that north-south line. And for those of us who are at 40 degrees north latitude, roughly speaking, I'm about 43 degrees north latitude. If you're somewhere within a few degrees of 40 degrees north latitude, these two stars, Deneb in Cygnus the Swan and Vega in Lyra, they get pretty close to your zenith point, more or less directly overhead. And right now, Vega is pretty close to the zenith at midnight, or pretty close to midnight. So you go out sometime from your local time. It's going to vary a little bit for your local time, but you go out, and it depends on your latitude. So all of this is variable, but you go out at sometime between 11:30 and 12:30 at night, and you look up and you'll see a bright star that's very high overhead. That's going to be Vega. That's the star. You're going to see that. And then if you look back a little bit further north and so you go a little bit further north and back to the east, not yet having reached to the meridian, you'll find Deneb in Cygnus. Altair in Aquila is further down here to the south. And so for me, right now, if I go outside my local time at about midnight and look up, I'll have a meridian line that runs north to south directly overhead. Vega will have just crossed that meridian line. It's actually a little bit past it. Altair is not quite there yet, but we'll get there within the next hour. So I go out at midnight and I look up and I can see these two stars are pretty close. Vega and Altair are pretty close to as high as they get in the sky. It's a big triangle, covers a lot of sky. So go out and practice that this week. Practice finding your summer triangle stars, Deneb, Vega, and Altair. Now, well south of here, down here, so you'll see well south of these stars midweek, the moon's going to pass through there. So we're talking about, let's say, somewhere around the 20th to the 22nd, 21st, 22nd. The moon is getting pretty close to full. So the moon's going to be full on Friday, the 23rd. So that this big bright moon that passes below here, and you'll be able to see the summer triangle sitting above there. So you can use them. That's another thing that makes this week a good week to start practicing again, finding your summer triangle stars, is you can use the moon to help you locate these stars, particularly Altair and Vega. Altair, it'll be closest to Altair as it goes. There's not very close to any of them, but that'll be sitting right below this triangle on midweek times. About the 22nd, it probably is when it's most directly below this triangle. But it's a big triangle, so it takes a few days for it to pass through here, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, as it moves across this direction. So that's what you want to go look and find the stars of the summer triangle. Get good at it for a lot of reasons. And one of those is, we've talked about this many times before, so much that I'm sure you're sick of it, that it's great to get to know the sky. You have these things that look like familiar old friends to you, and the summer triangle is one of those things. I'll walk out in the evening, late at night, early in the morning, and I'll look to see where the summer triangle is to see if I can find it. Now, the summer triangle's pretty well named because it's pretty well placed in summer, but portions of it are visible. It is at sometime during the night all year long. I'm sure we've talked about that before too. So I will look for the summer triangle. I'll look up and identify these stars, particularly Deneb and Vega, just about any time of year. I have to be out at the right time of night, but this then becomes a guide for me to see this. But it also becomes a guide to find other things in the sky. One of those things we're going to look at today is this star Albireo. And Alberio, if you have a small telescope, Alberio is one of the most fantastic things you can look at with your small telescope. It's a double star, so there are two stars, and those two stars are one is very blue and one is very gold. And so it really tricks your eye when you look at it. You see a blue star and a gold star in there. It really pops, and you think, "Wow, okay, I see the color difference dramatically when I see the two of them right next to each other." They're about half an arc minute apart. Remember, an arc minute is 1/60th of a degree. A degree is your finger width held out in arm's length. It's that angle. And so it's about, a 60th of a degree. A half of that would be the separation of the two stars in here. Any small telescope does a pretty good job of pulling those apart and seeing them as individual bright points of light. Bright gold, bright blue, really a beautiful object in a small telescope. One of my absolute favorite things to observe anytime I'm out and observing is this double star Alberio. And the way to find it is it's sort of in the middle, in the midst of this triangle. So Deneb is part of Cygnus. Cygnus has a cross part here, and then you run the long part down this direction. So Cygnus looks something like that. And Alberio is sort of the head of the swan, if you will, flying down the Milky Way. Alberio is down here, just above a line that would connect Altair to Vega. So just above that line, you'll find Alberio's pretty cleanly in between there. Relatively bright star, relatively easy to pick it out and see. It's of this string of stars that runs down through here. There are some fainter stars right here, and then this is a brighter star again. And so you'll see Alberio as something of a brighter star. Take your small telescope, point it at Alberio, do it again and again. You'll really appreciate it. The two stars, we don't really know, interestingly enough, we don't know if those two stars are part of a binary system or if they're just a chance alignment. We know they're pretty close together in space. The Hipparcos satellite would have suggested that they're both about 400 parsecs distance from us. They're both about the same distance from us, but one looks like it's probably a little bit further away than the other one and it's too far apart to be part of a binary system. It's not clear yet whether that's, there's enough uncertainty in that data, and Gaia is working on that right now. There's enough uncertainty in that data to not know whether these things are at the same point in space or not. If they are part of a binary system, we haven't seen them move relative to each other. So they got to have a very long orbital period. We don't see them move this direction. We'd see them with Doppler shift move this direction. We'd see the waves red shifted and blue shifted as the stars move towards you and away from you. And we don't see that. And we don't see them moving around each other. And we've been observing them for quite a long time now. So the system, we're talking tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years would have to be the orbital period if there are, in fact, associated with one another in space. So it's an interesting question to think about. We've been studying this star for a long time. We still aren't really sure what those components, whether they're part of the same system or not part of the same system. So go out, take a look, use the moon going by, and the fact that Vega and Altair are very close to the meridian line at midnight right now to help you locate the summer triangle and get good at finding the summer triangle. And see if you can pick out Alberio, even if you don't have a small telescope. Use Alberio, find Alberio, see if you can locate it. Should be a good observing project this week. Hopefully you have some clear skies and you have rain if you need rain, and you have a good week, and we'll have something different to look at next week. Thanks, everybody.